On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
a New York nightlife legend, Jim Caruso. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. Sitting across from me today is a man every Broadway actor knows as one of their most dedicated supporters and also as one of their own. Jim Caruso made his Broadway debut alongside none other than Liza Minnelli in Liza's at the Palace in 2008, which won a Tony Award for Best Special Event and also earned a Grammy nomination. He's performed at the White House, Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and in Times Square for a crowd of over 100,000 theater fans. He's the winner of multiple MAC Awards, BroadwayWorld Awards, BackStage Magazine Bistro Awards, and a NightLife Award. And on top of all of this, he is most beloved for his acclaimed weekly series, Broadway at Birdland, a staple of Monday nights in New York City. Since 2003, Jim has curated and hosted what is possibly the classiest and most star-studded open mic night of all time, featuring drop-ins from the biggest stars of Broadway's last half-century. One of the most welcoming, generous, talented, and truly delightful people I know. I'm charmed and excited to welcome my friend Jim Caruso to Laura Heywood Interviews.
Oh my God.
Why are you laughing?
The century. What in the heck?
Listen, I mean,
I want to hear me. I'm tuning in.
Right?
I should be fascinating.
You are fascinating.
Stop it.
I mean, you know, like, your Broadway at Birdland series, it's like Barbara Cook would pop in.
That's
and,
right.
You know, and then like Laura Osnes would be there. And so I was trying to, I didn't want to be like Broadway stars of yesteryear and today.
Oh, thank you for that.
Know,
like Ethel Merman will be here on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. But really, it's like you never know when Liza's going to be there, but you also might have, Jonathan Groff there. It does feel like the sort of it's multiple generations of Broadway actors all
I love that.
All equally respect you and show up for you and show up to not like as a favor to you, but this is where they're comfortable.
Oh, that's really nice. I mean, what could be better than that, than providing comfort for a community that I just am obsessed with? I love these people. I love them. It started with Cast Party. And with the success of that, which is an open mic night.
Right. I guess I had Broadway and Birdland and Cast Party have sort of melded in my mind. So what's the difference?
Well, 18 years ago, I was doing PR, which was slightly tragic. Not that it's not a wonderful job, but it just was not really what I wanted to do. But one of my clients was a nightclub. It was called the King Kong Room at the Supper Club. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing going on. I was writing press releases for drink specials, and it was just...
Did the drinks at least have clever, punny names?
Not so much. No, it was really dull. So that Christmas, I was working there, and there happened to be a piano in the corner. And so I thought, I'm just going to throw a party and invite everybody, and at least there will be something to talk about. So I did that. Threw a party. People stayed until about 3 a.m. We ended up, of course, singing around the piano like it's an MGM musical.
Were you the one playing it?
No, I don't play. But I had Billy Stritch at the piano, who's kind of good.
And for people who don't know Billy, what's your elevator bio of Billy Stritch?
Billy Stritch, my best friend for 38 years or something ridiculous.
So you've known each other since you were like 4 or 5 years old.
That's exactly. Thank you. He was Liza Minnelli's musical director for 25 years. He was recently Tony Bennett's musical director for about 2 years. He's just fantastic. He's a performer, certainly, in his own right.
If you've ever seen Liza, he's the guy at the piano.
He's probably the guy. And just a brilliant vocal arranger and pianist and singer. So he was at the piano, and it was... I can't remember exactly who was there, but Liza was there. Just the friends, or Ann Hampton Calloway.
Yeah, the people that everybody has in their phone.
The folks. Anyway, it was a blast. And the next day, the owner of the club called and said, would you do that every Monday? I said, no. Why would I do that? I'm not going to throw a party every Monday. He said, well, it's Broadway's Dark Night. I think it would be fun. See if it takes form if it catches on. So I did, and people came, a few, and then the next week people came again.
Meaning people you hadn't necessarily invited, like customers of the club?
I just kind of started to spread the word. This was I'm not sure if there was Facebook at that time, but there was email.
In 2003?
Certainly. Yeah.
I think Facebook was just for like Harvard.
That's right.
Harvard
That's right.
kids.
And trust me, that was not us. But I emailed everybody. And
You're
I said,
from the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, that's exactly. I just kind of spread the word, and people like Max von Ness and Christopher Sieber were all starting to show up and bring friends and their little Broadway pals, and it started to be a thing. So I gave it a name.
And this was still at the King Kong room?
That's correct. And because of the success of that, we had a room full of these incredible talents. I thought, what if I did a Broadway series and we did a concert once a week? And so that's how all that started. So when we moved over to Birdland, gratefully, I just took it all with me. We took Cast Party and the Broadway at Birdland concert series, which takes place every Monday at 7, and has been everybody from Liza, Cheetah, Laura,
Tony
Yazbeck, Laura Osnes, Cheyenne Jackson, Julie Halston, young, old songwriters, instrumentalists, comics.
Just in her defense, Julie Halston is not old. So I hope that was not the category you were putting her in.
I said young first.
Good,
for
yes. That was,
very
we were
reason.
talking about Julie specifically.
She is 21, and don't you forget it. So that's kind of how the whole project started.
So Broadway at Birdland is a 7 p.m. concert series.
Every Monday.
And then immediately following,
That's right.
the attendees of Broadway at Birdland are welcome to stay.
Absolutely.
And then the doors open to fill in any remaining seats from people who left after the concert, and then the party begins.
Then the party, which is an open mic night variety show. We never know who's going to be there. All of those people have been there, but also people, I don't want to say off the street because that sounds
Civilians.
disturbing.
We'll call them civilians.
Yes,
they're not street people, but they're not professional Broadway performers.
No, but those people come in. Jazzers come in. Songwriters. We've had hula dancers. We've had
Really?
all kinds of insanity.
It's like an old-fashioned variety show.
It is. I feel a little like Ed Sullivan every Monday night.
Ed Sullivan,
That's correct.
Jim Caruso.
Yes.
How do if let's say I wanted to, let's say you and I didn't know each other,
Right.
And I had heard about this and I wanted to come and sing at Broadway at Birdland. At Jim Caruso's
Cast
cast party. Do I just show up and put my name on a list like at a karaoke bar?
Yeah.
So what happens if you get like 30 people who can't sing who all show up on the same night?
It's never happened.
Really?
Ever.
Oh no! Now we need to knock on wood.
I know, exactly. Oh, God. Because tonight is Cast Party, so I don't want to jinx it. But we usually have about 20, 25 people, which is a lot. Many of them are in the business, professional. Of course, that doesn't mean they're entertaining, but they are either on the fringes of show business or literally in show business. Very few people show up and are just, kind of karaoke drunk moments. That's been just a handful in about 17 years where, we've had to basically call the cops to get people off the stage.
Oh, yikes.
But it's a really impressive bunch every week. I couldn't feel luckier about that I'm not hosting some kind of draggy event. Yeah, dragging event that's just, you want to shoot yourself in the head.
Drag
It's
is welcome,
fun.
I imagine.
Drag is very welcome.
As long as you're not dragging time-wise.
That's correct. It's a blast. And the only rule is you have to sing an upbeat tune.
Oh, cool. So no ballads.
No ballads. And it took a while for me to realize that when people, really no matter who they were, would get up and sing Meadowlark or fill in
On My Own.
any of those, as great as those songs are and as great as the performer was, the energy in the room starts to lag a little bit, and people start looking at, is it time to get the check? And they're looking for their waitress, and so that's our only rule: make it upbeat, make it fun. It's a party. We're trying to create a party atmosphere. Our trio, Billy Stritch at the piano still, Steve Doyle on bass, Daniel Glass on drums. They're the top-notch musicians in town.
And they just know every song? Or do people bring books that and those three can just read any
Exactly
score.
that. People bring sheet music usually, or their book, or if it's a standard, they know every standard. But I would suggest bringing some music because you don't want to let that up for that would be very lucky if
But
they
if
knew
somebody's
your
like,
weird song.
Well, right, your weird song. But if somebody's like, do you know there's no business like show business?
I feel like they could do that. Yeah, I feel pretty good that they would nail it. But they're just the greatest, and they certainly help me keep the energy going.
How often do you perform?
Oh, not. You mean a cast party? Mm-hmm. Billy and I sing one duet to open the night, and that's it.
Is it always the same?
No.
What are you singing tonight?
I don't know till we're literally doing it.
What do you mean?
He just plays the introduction, I run up on stage, and that's what we sing.
So it's something in your catalog.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Can you imagine if he starts playing like,
The theme from Dr. Zhivago.
I was thinking like Mama Who Bore Me from Spring Awakening.
Well, first of all, that song is perfect for me. No, we sing at the Carlisle Hotel, Billy and I.
Talk about like the classiest room in town. No offense, Birdland.
So much fun. But we do that every Sunday. We're off right now, but we start again in March for our 9th year. So we have 3 hours of music that we can.
You've got to be
hurl
best
at
friends
you.
if you're hanging out 2 nights a week every week.
It's true. It's true. And we were just talking the other night. We haven't had a fight in years.
Do we need to knock on wood again?
Yes. We really get along.
How did you guys meet?
In a cabaret. I know, this sounds like some terrible setup. We met in a cabaret in Dallas, Texas, where I was living, and he was from Houston. And he had a vocal group called Montgomery, Plant, and Stritch. I mean, they were incredible.
Wow, he played with Robert Plant.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
And Elaine Stritch.
No, Billy's the Stritch.
That's
Any
right.
relation?
No. Although when Elaine Stritch died, he got condolence cards.
You're kidding.
Sympathy cards. He was like, well, thanks, but okay.
Did people think she was his mom?
I don't know
or
what
his
people
sister?
think. Oh, I certainly hope not. But we met there, and he played so brilliantly, and I thought, I either have to make you my best friend or have you killed because you're so ridiculously talented. And, we've been friends ever since. We moved to New York around the same time.
But not together.
No, 1990. I called him and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm packing. For what? I'm moving to New York. Guess what I'm doing? What? Packing. I'm moving to New York. So it was weird.
You're kind of like platonic soulmates.
We kind of are.
Yeah.
Well, I think we draw these people into our lives.
Totally. And it is interesting how somebody like that could have been your mortal enemy.
Right.
Like you could have been like, wait, I'm on the nightlife scene. Well,
Right.
I'm on the nightlife scene.
Exactly.
And I think there's such power in taking somebody that could have been your nemesis and being like, what if we combine forces?
Oh my God, we were just talking about that. Yes, absolutely.
You become like you guys are like the Avengers of the New York cabaret scene,
I'm using that. I'm putting that on my business card.
You quote me. You
That's
get
funny.
like Laura Heywood interview says.
That's hilarious.
I was on a
podcast.
a CBS This Morning podcast, and they introduced me as Broadway's most influential fan. And you better believe that pull quote is on everything.
That's a great line.
And I just say CBS because it was CBS.
It's true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you now have a pull quote that a celebrated radio host called you and Billy the Avengers of the New York cabaret
Somebody
scene.
write that down for me and email me.
I will do it.
I
will
like
do
it.
it myself.
I like it.
Can we go back to like the early days of Jim Caruso? You grew up in Pittsburgh and you
The
moved
covered
to Dallas.
wagons.
Come on.
Yes,
Yeah,
I grew
so-
up in glamorous Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And you did theater as a kid, right?
I did, yeah. I worked at a wonderful, I would call it community theater, except there were quite a few professionals working there too. It was called North Star Players, with folks like Jeff Calhoun, who was younger than I and taller than
You were going to be like, he was younger then than he is now.
He was younger then, because it was the 70s. No, some really talented people came out of that world. And we did every musical, every Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. Honey, we were in. And did a lot of children's theater, and I was a professional clown. I know. That always makes Julie Halston laugh. when I
Don't knock
tell about
clowns.
Okay.
You know, have you ever seen Bill Irwin perform?
Well,
that guy's a professional clown.
Bill Irwin's a genius.
That's right. He's a MacArthur Genius
Yes.
Grant winner.
Jimbo the Clown was not.
It was Jimbo the Clown more like a balloon animals at birthday parties clown? Got it.
Oh,
got
yeah.
it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think sometimes clowning gets a bad rap, but that kind of clowning maybe deserves a bad
Deserves a rap. Yeah, I can't say
No,
I
I'm
was
kidding.
that. Somebody called me the Joan Rivers of children's entertainment, which I still think is funny.
Put
because-
that on your business card.
Because I was really sarcastic, even at a young age. Listen, it was anything to be in show business. If you needed a dancing turkey at the mall, I'll do that. I was into whatever seemed like show business. And it kind of was, and it all gave me great experience. You know,
Of course, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean-
it's all because it all is show business.
That's right.
Right.
And so what brought you to Dallas?
My mother remarried, and so we all relocated to Texas, which I didn't like at first, and then I loved, because Texas is Dallas is like Beverly Hills, without the movie stars. It's very glamorous. People are all beautiful. Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
More than in other parts of, like more than
It's
in
a
Houston,
very
more than
good-looking
in
bunch.
Austin.
Houston, they're beautiful too. It was fun, and I did a lot of theater, and was always kind of in the ensemble, which was fun to a degree. But I kept thinking, I want to be my own. I want to be Dick Van Dyke. I want to be Carol Burnett.
I'm a star, baby.
Not even that. I just knew I wanted to be heard. I hate to sound like Oprah, but you know, everybody just wants to be heard.
And seen, yeah.
I wanted that, and so I put an act together with my mother.
Shut up.
Yeah, it was.
A mother-son act.
I mean, who doesn't need that?
Was it, what did you call yourselves? The Carusos?
No,
Were
but it
you
was like
Jimmy
the
and
Judds.
Mommy?
It was like the Judds on lithium, because my mother could only play ballads on the piano. She was a great musician, but we played a nightclub called Stefano's Seafood. Yeah.
This sounds like a sitcom.
It was, well, it would be a terrible sitcom, but it was, maybe looking back, kind of funny. At some point, I had to fire my mother because this was not working. So
How old were you?
I was like 22.
Oh, okay, got it.
Oh,
I was
too old.
picturing you at like 13 being like,
Oh, no,
Mom,
no.
you're fired.
No, I was too old to be doing an act with my mother, but although tell Winona Judd that.
Oh, wow.
We got along much better than the Judds did. But anyway, that got me onto the nightclub scene, creating my own show for myself. So not only was I doing Once Upon a Mattress in the ensemble, I was on my off nights singing in nightclubs and putting cabaret shows and duos and trios together. And it was an incredible experience because all of a sudden I was a producer.
Yeah.
I was a publicist. I was all the things you have to do to promote yourself.
And you've continued to do all of those things.
Oh, I'm exhausted.
Ah.
Yeah.
And here I am getting you out of bed early on it. Although it is a Monday. You've got a full work day ahead of you.
That's correct.
Man, so so let's talk about what a Monday looks like for you. What time do you usually get up?
I'm kind of an early riser.
Even after you've done the night before at the Carlisle with
Yeah,
with
because
Billy?
my inner clock is, I have to do stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
have to get up and have my coffee. And, you know, I'm also booking Birdland and the Birdland Theater and
Mm-hmm. Which
doing
is-
the press
We're
and
gonna
all
come
of
back
that
to
stuff.
Birdland
Yeah.
Theater.
So it's not like I'm sleeping till noon. I would love that, but it's not my life.
So and then what? You get up, you go,
Oh.
do you do that stuff from home? Do you go to Birdland?
I go to Starbucks
Mm-hmm.
because it's, you know, it's my thing. I get my...
What's your order?
I usually get a venti skim cappuccino. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm making a note.
Yeah, that's right.
Look, I
and then I
just
go home.
actually made a note.
Fantastic. No, I get a little something, and I go back home, and I turn on the computer, and I start working. And, of course, CNN's always on behind me, low, so I can keep up with the horror that's going on.
Oh, God.
But I just sit there for a few hours and get as caught up as possible. And on Mondays specifically, I get to the club around 4:30 for the sound check for whoever's there that night at 7. That show happens at 7. Then I help them with their photos and press and whatever might happen to be there. Then the audience leaves and the new audience comes in for cast party, and we're off and running.
Wow. And then how late are you there?
Cast party goes till around 12:30 or 1. And then we always end up at the diner afterwards, which is
that's
crazy.
good to know.
Oh, it's so...
I might just happen to
Listen,
happen by the diner and
I
see
love a
who's
diner.
there. Yeah.
I love a grilled cheese with
we will
tomato.
just not mention which diner just so you don't get mobbed.
Oh, no, please, mob. Please. I'm begging mobbing.
I think that the part you totally skipped over is how much you are the master of ceremonies through all of this. That you are at the door greeting people. You are taking VIPs backstage to see the performers. You are wrangling press who show up to take pre-show photos. You are rubbing shoulders with the people you know, famous and not. That you are, you know all of the servers' names. You're interfacing with the host and hostess. You're checking in with the standby line that is inevitably grown outside because there's more demand than there are tickets.
Oh God, I sound very busy.
You are like a cruise director, and I mean that in the best
perfect.
way.
It's perfect.
Plus, not to mention, you're doing all of this upstairs at Birdland, which has been there for so long, but also at the Birdland Theater, which is downstairs, and there's simultaneous shows going on down there.
There can be.
And you manage to be kind of the face. I think of you as the face of Birdland. Maybe it's because I'm usually there on Mondays.
Right. I think that's exactly.
To me, you're
little
kind of synonymous
skewed.
with
Oh,
the
that's
venue.
nice. Well, listen, the venue's been there. There's been a Birdland in this city for 70-some years. And it's been in that space. Johnny Valenti, the owner, has had it on West 44th Street in the heart of Broadway, the Broadway scene, for 30-some years. So he is certainly the face of Birdland. But I'm happy to be a face people recognize on Broadway nights. Not just happy, honored and thrilled to be. That sounds so phony. But it's true.
Well,
I'm thrilled. This is what I've always wanted.
Right.
It's what I've always wanted.
In a way, what you and I do is kind of similar. We're
Yeah,
like professional
absolutely.
fans who have found a way to take our, I don't even want to say talents, but like we found the intersection between what we do best and the thing we love the best.
That's exactly
and made
right.
it work to become our life and our living.
That's exactly right. I thought I was going to be Donny Osmond. That was not my goal, but I just thought, I'm going to be a fancy kid singer and then grow up and have a, whatever career. And that didn't happen. So
do you have any diamond encrusted suits? Because I feel like when I picture Donny Osmond, I picture him in a rhinestone-covered blue,
aqua
suit jacket.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's the 1970s Donny Osmond, so he might differ. He might beg to differ. But no, I don't have a lot of Peter Allen-y kind of encrusted thing. It's kind of not my look.
Yeah, you let Liza do the spangles.
Absolutely. She would have shot me if I would have shown up in black sequins.
You do not upstage Ms. Minnelli.
That's correct. That is damn right. And by the way, I could set my hair on fire and not upstage
That's
that
true.
woman.
I know.
That woman is just, her energy on stage is insane.
Well, since you brought it up.
So proud of her.
Since you brought it up, let's dish about Liza.
Okay.
I feel like she's so iconic that to me, she's kind of like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Like I forget that she's a human being. When I see her in Cabaret or something, she's this like, she's has this aura of, like she's an Academy Award winner,
Yep,
but now
yep.
I see this, now I see her and I still see that, but she feels like, she feels like a character to me. It's hard
Right.
to me. It's hard for me
Right.
to feel like I'm the same species. I feel so ordinary when I see
I
Liza.
know what you mean.
She's this elevated kind of
Yeah.
presence, but you actually know her.
I do. I lived with her in Los Angeles.
Okay,
What
stop.
you just said, though, reminded me of when Stephanie Block was auditioning for 9 to 5. And at one of her final callbacks, Dolly Parton walked in. And Stephanie said she was in a pink pleather jacket and pink pleather palazzo pants or something that just sounds insane.
Wait, Dolly was or Stephanie was?
No, Dolly was. And she said, she came up and hugged me, and she said, it was like meeting the Easter Bunny. And I will never forget that, because I thought that's exactly what some of these icons are like to us until you peel back the facade and you get to know them. And I certainly got to know Liza. I was her assistant for a few years. I lived with her in Los Angeles. So the Easter Bunny is history.
We will have to ask Stephanie about the Easter Bunny experience with Dolly versus the Easter Bunny experience with Cher.
I mean, talk about Stephanie Block has the best stories.
We actually need to say Stephanie J. Block, because there's a different Stephanie Block.
That's right.
out
In case
there.
you're the other Stephanie Block.
Can you imagine if you were in SAG-AFTRA as Stephanie Block?
How annoying is that?
And then this woman throws
So
a J in her
annoying.
name.
I know. I know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I assume, I mean, Liza's very, very omnipresent. Everybody knows Liza. Like, she's one of those one-name superstars. But I also imagine that she's got to be pretty private. So, there's part of me that wants to be like, to hear the scoops. But I also
Yeah.
know that she's a dear friend of yours, and I don't want you to I don't want it to sound like I'm asking you to betray her, not that you ever would, or her confidence or whatever.
Absolutely.
But I also
You're
want,
right.
I would love to know.
Well, plus her friends are so guarded about that stuff. And if one friend and several friends have gone out of their way to write books and
no.
chapters worth of her wedding and stuff she never talks about. They're out, and they're not just out of her life; they're out of all of our lives.
I can imagine.
Those people, they're the worst.
So I want to just
don't make me name names.
I don't want you to, and I want to just reiterate that when I say let's dish about Liza,
No.
I'm more interested in
I get it.
I can't picture her eating breakfast, or like I can't picture her doing anything an ordinary person would do.
Right.
And if you were like, Liza loves cornflakes, like I'd be
Right.
like, that's amazing. And
What is that?
and
She makes good pot roast. That's something you wouldn't think.
it just wouldn't occur to me. It's like I wouldn't
Right.
think she didn't make a good pot roast, but it's just I don't picture her doing anything human. I just picture her like sitting. I picture her on a stool, on a stage,
Sure.
and sort of perched where you can't really tell whether her weight is on the stool or whether she's standing.
Right.
She's not sitting all the way on it. She's perched. She's like draped on it. And I've seen her live in performance, but I picture her doing that at home. I can't picture her without eyeliner. I can't picture her without like long lashes.
I get it. I totally get it. But she would be laughing so hard right now if she heard that, because I don't think she thinks of herself that way at all. I remember once we got together and I said, "What'd you do last night?" And she said, "Oh, I went to a party." And I said, "Oh, was it fun?" She said, "Not really. I think they wanted her."
Oh yeah.
Meaning, the sequins and the eyelashes and the
Right.
giggling and all that. And that's not a character, but it's
persona.
her, times 10
That's like her
personality.
avatar.
That's right. Avatar.
I think about it that way because it is like maybe 1/100th of 1% what Liza must deal with. But like I go places and people want Broadway Girl.
Right.
And for a long time, Broadway Girl was an avatar. It was an anonymous character that was
that's
represented
right.
by a cartoon character,
That's
like a cartoon caricature.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, I dated a guy for a while who called Broadway girl my roommate. He didn't like to go places with me where I was on in that way, because even though I'd be like, oh, I got free tickets to go see blah, blah, blah. And then he'd go to the theater with me and be like, I wanted to go out with Laura, not with Broadway girl. And I'm like, well, Broadway girl got the tickets. So
that's right.
Like, don't go to the theater with me if you don't want to see Broadway girl. But there is, Broadway Con just happened, and I am so exhausted today. I had the best time of my life, but I was Broadway girl all weekend.
Of course.
And I loved it. I love being quote unquote her, and she is me. She's in me. But also, like, you'll notice today I've got my glasses on and a hoodie, and like I don't have makeup on, and I maybe ran a brush through my hair once, but like this space, Laura Heywood Interviews, is for, like, there's a reason I didn't call it the Broadway Girl Show. And it's because I wanted people to get used to the idea of me, not her.
Well, I think it's really important for all of us to do that. Look at how brilliantly my friend Colleen Ballinger has done this. When I first met Colleen, she was creating a character called Miranda Sings online. That character, I invited her to cast party once, and she just killed.
Colleen or as
Miranda? This awful character who can't sing, can't do anything.
She can't even put on lipstick.
But thinks she is the bomb. She thinks she's a genius. And she was just starting. And I said, if you ever put a show together, I'll book it. Let's talk. She's like, well, what the hell would I do? What, are you crazy? A little while later, she called me and she said, yeah, I'll do a show. That was the beginning of her rise to fame.
The phenomenon.
As Miranda Sings.
Who's best known for YouTube.
That's right.
But it all started because of Jim Caruso.
Well, no, but it started because of YouTube, and that's where I saw her. But she's been so brilliant at keeping Colleen Ballinger in the mix. So now Colleen Ballinger has 2 best-selling books on New York Times bestseller list. She's co-hosted The View. She's been on
Broadway,
The Tonight Show, and then she finally got to do Broadway. She was in Waitress. She was
in Waitress alongside Todrick Hall, also a YouTube star, who, when amongst other things, he's done a million different things. And Todrick and I met when he was doing Kinky Boots, but then while he was in Waitress with Colleen, I went to see it, had him on this show, and he invited me to go on tour with him. And I just got back from 6 weeks on tour with Todrick.
That's right.
So I actually didn't get to meet Colleen, but I've heard so many wonderful things about her.
First of all, she's one of my favorite humans. I love her so much. But her work ethic, to watch her create this thing out of literally nothing, this character, this career, and now she's like this mogul living in this enormous house in California with gates and stuff. It's crazy when I go visit her, and she has a beautiful family and an adorable baby and a great husband, and she's really created a wonderful life. Anyway, she's the perfect example of persona, and the real person kind of melding and knowing who should be who when.
Right. And she has first of all, people can see the difference because of the messy lipstick thing.
Of course.
But also, her persona has a different name.
That's right.
And I think that is
helpful.
That is helpful. I think that, and at least I have my screen name. I have my handle, Broadway Girl. And so that helps me differentiate.
Right.
And especially when I was doing it anonymously and Laura Heywood had to be very separate and far away, I had different names for them. But I do sometimes worry about people like Liza, whose character has the same name and the same face as their real human being. Like,
I think it's very healthy, though, to be able to. I mean, when she called the other Liza her, first I thought, oh, that's truly weird. But then the more I thought about it, I thought that's actually really healthy. To know that somebody at a party was expecting that energy and that persona. And it's not who she is or certainly was that night. She didn't feel like it. I thought that's kind of hip to be able to differentiate.
I feel like if you want her, You call her agent and you
That's
pay.
right. That's exactly right.
And I wouldn't want to be invited to a party and expected to be on all the time.
Right.
I think that one of the reasons I'm an introvert, or one of the things that has really exacerbated my introversion, is that people do want me to show up and be a Broadway girl, and they want to go like I had to stop going on first dates with through apps, because people would be like, "What do you do?" And I tried to explain it, and then
Right.
they automatically, their eyes would light up, and they'd be like, "Who's the coolest person you ever hung out with? What have you seen lately?" Blah blah. Those are stories I like to tell, but I also want somebody to be like, how about this political situation, or
Right.
global
Right.
warming? Let's talk about, what do normal people talk about? The weather. I don't necessarily want to get to be interviewed every time I show up somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just little me.
Well, but everybody just feels like little me.
Even Liza?
I
don't know. You don't need to speak for her.
I don't, and I wouldn't, but I have a feeling she feels just like that. Like she's in the middle of her life. She doesn't see herself like that. I don't think Cher would. I don't think Dolly would.
Dolly probably would.
Dolly probably would. You're right.
Dolly seems like she's, I don't know why I feel
I like
this
that we're
way.
talking about the hippest, most fantastic divas.
Talk
in
about the
pop.
Avengers.
Truly, there's an act. Oh my God, I love those girls. Needless to say.
I bet it was really wonderful for someone like, for not somebody like that, for Liza, to have a true friend she could come home to, strip off the, the eyelashes, get a makeup wipe it all off, and crash on the TV and watch cartoons or whatever,
I mean, I think it was, and she's had, she has a lot of friends. But I was happy to be one of them. And boy, did she change my life in many ways. And not just mine, but all of ours, Billy's. So many of us were touched by her, her wand of success for certain amounts of time. I got to know her godmother, Kay Thompson.
Who did all of the...
She was the vocal arranger at MGM in the 40s, and she had a nightclub act called Kay Thompson and the Williams Brothers with Andy Williams and his brothers, and then wrote a book called Eloise. But beyond that, she was Judy Garland's best friend, and Judy made her Liza's godmother. And Ira Gershwin was her godfather. Hello. Anyway,
Hashtag pedigree.
I know, truly. So I got to know Kay in the last years of her life because she moved in with Liza.
Well, she also did all of the stuff for Liza's the Palace, didn't she?
Well, she didn't do it for that. She was gone by then. But Liza's at the Palace was a recreation of Kay's nightclub act with the Williams brothers. So me and a bunch of great guys recreated those harmonies, and they were spectacular. They were Kay's arrangements, with Billy at the piano and Liza being Kay Thompson. That was the second act of Liza's at the Palace, which is available on CD.
Speaking of CDs, let's talk about your best-selling CD.
Oh, my huge selling CD.
Well, look, if you go to jim-caruso.com, you can learn that his most recent solo studio recording, The Swing Set, was called a top drawer first-rate swinger by Jazz Times, and also went to #1 on both the album and singles charts at outvoice.com.
That's correct.
So it's a chart topper.
That's correct. Okay, I'll take it.
It's not the Billboard charts, but
No.
the outvoice.com charts.
But our new
are
record
also
was on the
important.
Billboard charts.
That's right. You did a Christmas record with one Billy Stritch and with one Ms. Clea Blackhurst.
I mean, that thing fell into our laps, and very seldom can you say that in show business. Billy and I were doing cast party, and this guy kept coming and seeing us and kind of chatting us up, and very kind and very interested in what we were doing. He gave me his card. I went home. I Googled. I saw that he was a record producer from Nashville with 9 Grammy nominations and 36 Dove Awards, which is the gospel Grammy.
Only 36?
I know. Sad. So, of course, that piqued our interest, and we were much nicer to him next time. So we started talking, and he said, I'd love to do something. I'd love to do a project with you all. What do you have in mind? And we've been doing this Christmas show at Birdland for 10 years. It's called A Swinging Birdland Christmas, with Clea Blackhurst. And it's so much fun. And we suggested we do that. He loved the idea. And so we did it. In August or September, we were in the studio singing Christmas songs and, sweating our guts out. And
you're like, let's sing Manhattan in December.
I know, yay, exactly.
In
it's
July.
90 degrees. It was such a pleasure, so much fun. He's a brilliant engineer and producer. It came out in the fall. When did it come out? Late
it came
September,
out just at
November.
just the time that it's proper
Exactly.
to start marketing Christmas materials.
That's correct. And it just made our holiday so lovely to have this beautiful product to talk about and to
I've got two of
sell at
these,
the
by the
club.
way, that I'd like to give away to people who are listening.
What?
Yeah. So when this episode, so as frequent listeners of Laura Heywood interviews know, you can listen live through dnrstudios.com/Laura. You can join for $6.95 a month, and you get every episode a week early, in addition to being able to hear it live. And then a week after that, it goes into free wide release everywhere podcasts are heard. So once the podcast version air, or once it's out, I'm going to tweet the link, and then someone who shares the link, 2 people will win these CDs. And if they'd like
nice
to
is
listen to them
that?
in February, then that's amazing. And if they'd like to save them and listen to them in the Christmas season,
That's
also
correct.
amazing. Do you think you'd autograph them?
I'm very busy. Of course, I'll write whatever you want.
I just want you to write your name.
Oh, I can do that.
Okay, Jim Caruso.
Yes.
Is there a Jim Caruso avatar? Is there a him? Is there a difference between Jim Caruso in public and Jim Caruso in private?
Oh, God, what a horrifying question. I think what I do at Cast Party is an animated version of me.
The cruise director.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little cruise directory. And everything's good, and everybody's talented, and wasn't that great? And in real life, I'm not quite that positive. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I know when people sing well and when people don't sing well. But what I do on stage is extremely positive.
You
and,
don't ever
and
show-
promotional
Sure.
and what's the word?
Well, it's tireless.
When I want to raise people up because in that situation, they get better if they're supported by me / the audience. And at Cast Party, there's never been booing or anything like, get her off the stage or anything like that.
Thank goodness.
Listen, some of these things have that. And
Yeah.
and it can be the
Yeah,
American idling
I was
of
gonna say,
America.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
There's always, a snarky guy with thoughts and comments and opinions.
Or just controversial things to say for the sake of the controversy.
Right. And by the way, I love that. And I love snarky people. And I am snarky people, but what I do on stage is perhaps not that.
You know what?
Maybe that's the difference.
What word comes to mind is aspirational. Like, you make everybody feel like, wow, if I had the opportunity to be introducing, name any Broadway star, like that's how excited I would be, and or if I sang on stage, that's how I would want to be received.
Right. Well, that's good. I hope that's true. Remember Rosie's show? Come on.
Of course, yes.
The Rosie O'Donnell show. She was such a huge fan of everybody, and it came off so sincere and so true. And
I think that's because it was.
Because it was. You can't. I mean, you can't really fake that for very long.
I have been in marketing meetings, or I've had interviews with people who were considering hiring me as a consultant on their social media and and theater related marketing, and the term manufacturing authenticity has come up with multiple people, and they wanted to bring me in because they felt like I'd really nailed this science of like making people think that I really believed the stuff that I was writing. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
I know. Have you met me?
people believe that I love things as much as I do because I love things as much as they do. I can't teach you how to love stuff.
Right.
If you're not working on something that you love, then you're not the one who should be.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying quit your job. I'm saying hire somebody else to run your public face.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like,
Well, I do a weekly radio segment on Legends 100.3 FM on your dial. And it's called a New York Minute. I talk about whatever I saw the week before. And I'm not a reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
I would never attempt to review. I talk about how much fun I had at an event
Right.
or at a show. And if it's not exactly my taste, that's okay. I don't talk about the fact that the score sucked or that whatever. I just talk about the good points of it because I like promoting performers and performances. And I leave that to the
critics,
reviewers.
Yes. I like to say, and you and I have this in common, but I've said it about myself, I think it applies to you too, is that there's always something both positive and authentic to say.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing 1 minute or I'm doing one tweet, there's
Right.
always, you can always fill the space. And it might be...
Or don't write about it.
Well, right.
How about
I mean,
that? Don't talk
what I'm
about
saying
it.
is like there are times that I've come out of a show and been like, I've waited my whole life to see X, Y, and Z. What a thrill to be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that. And I'm not like, or I might be like, did you see the wigs on so and so? Like, there should be a Tony for hair and makeup.
Right.
But what I don't do is go, I guess the wigs were good.
Right.
Where there's this
Right.
intended underlying.
Well, there are people that do that, and they
That's
do
right.
it really well. I don't think you and I are those people.
No, we're not.
And
We're not. Usually now when people say, "What do you do for a living?" I still have a very hard time explaining
I know.
it.
I don't know
But
what to
I
do. I
say,
start to cry.
I'm like a critic who never criticizes. I go to the shows and I talk about the stuff I like, and
Right.
I have an audience that listens to me and respects my opinions.
Right. And then you drop your pen.
And
But you're a supporter. You're a supporter of the arts.
I'm a professional fan.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I feel
and
the
so
same
are you.
way.
You are.
I feel the
Except
same
that
way.
you've also been on Broadway. You know what I mean? I'm
I'm in
in
it.
the audience.
Listen, it was a month and a half of the greatest time of my life, but that was the last time.
You will always be a Broadway actor. You have an
Okay.
IBDB page. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
That's right. Oh my God, that was so fun to go to my Broadway show at night. Oh,
8 shows a week.
no. Are you insane, Liza Minnelli? I think we did 5 a week. So all my friends doing 8 a week just hated my guts. It was so fun. At
When
the
you were yeah,
Palace.
that's what I was going to say. Okay, first of all, the Palace, R.I.P. Right? Like it is. I cannot walk by that corner of 47th Street without like feeling a pain in my gut that space is not being used.
What in the hell are they doing?
They're lifting it up so we can have more retail space in Times Square.
'Cause
Although
we
I'll
need-
believe that when I see it.
You know what we need right there is a Chase Bank.
Oh God.
Or a Dwayne Reed. That'd be great.
I mean, can we just maybe, if we have to have retail space, can it be Colony Music?
Oh, please. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
That would be amazing. I mean, but there are so many legendary stories about the Palace, especially with Judy. I mean, the reason I think that this show was what it was that Liza was paying, an honor to her godmother, sure, but also her mother.
Absolutely.
And
She did the Palace medley from Judy at the Palace.
Oh yeah, wow.
In the first act.
I can't believe I missed that show. I was here and I missed it.
Oh.
I do have a plastic sippy cup from it though. Because
The white with the red.
it was clear with red and gold lettering.
Oh,
It just says live at the Palace. It does not have Liza's name on it, but it is that maroon and gold.
okay.
I think it's from that.
Could be.
that show.
Well, we did 2 shows there. That's the one I was in, but the one I helped her kind of produce was called Minnelli on Minnelli. And that was 10 years before
Yeah,
that.
that one I didn't see. I mean, that one I wasn't even here for. That
Yeah.
one I couldn't have seen, so I forgive
Right.
myself.
There
But
was
what I
some
wanna know
really
is,
great stuff in that show,
Like,
too.
I've heard that there was a special door put in at the back of the palace so that Judy could come straight down the center aisle, and that the whole building was renovated for Judy back in the day. Did Liza talk about any of that stuff? Did she refer back? Because she had to have had stories about the actual building
Yeah.
that she got from her mom. Were
She
you aware of any of
remembered
that?
where she sat watching her mother. And she would reference that during the show, like, you, lady, sitting right there. I sat right there watching my mom. And there was that little door in the back of the house. But I think it was put in so that she could come. I mean, there's probably some historian that's shaking their head right now saying I'm so wrong.
Well,
But-
nobody's going to quote you on this. We're not using
Yeah,
it as
please.
source material on, the updated Wikipedia page.
I think it was so that she could watch from the back of the house the rest of the show, because she had recreated vaudeville with all of these other acts that came on before her. So I think she just wanted to watch John Bubbles, the tap dancer. That's probably also not his name, but you know what I mean. She was such
if that's
a fan.
not somebody's name, that should be.
Right. She was such a fan of these acts. So I think they put that in so that she could come in from backstage, but it was at the back of the house. And it was a small door. It wasn't like a, crazy dog door. But it was a smallish door.
Crazy dog door.
Crazy dog door starring
John
Judy
W.
Garland.
Bubbles, by the
Right.
way, who lived from February 19th, 1902 to May 18th, 1986. He was an American vaudeville performer from the duo Buck and Bubbles. He's also known as the father of rhythm tap. So, Jim Caruso, you pulled out some authentic vaudeville trivia.
Was he in Judy's at the Palace? Type it.
He appeared with Judy Garland in her musical episode of, in her 1967 concert at the Palace Theater singing Me and My Shadow.
Oh, dear. Oh, God. Well, nobody said it was politically correct, but it was
That same
entertaining.
year, he became partially paralyzed due to a stroke. Yikes.
Oh, yikes.
Well, John Bubbles,
Oh, John
you
Bubbles,
are remembered.
we love you. And so did she.
Yeah.
So that's why that door was put in the back of the house so that she could watch. That's the story I heard from Liza. She might have made an entrance from there. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yes, that theater means everything to Liza. And I remember I would get to the theater insanely early at night because I wanted to be working at the Palace Theater. So I would get there like 3 hours ahead of curtain, just so I could kind of breathe it in and walk around and look in the old dressing rooms that we weren't using and walk, I mean, that was my one chance.
Yeah,
You don't get
of course.
that chance.
Yeah, you have an all access pass.
Yeah. And get to know the lady that ran the elevator from the stage to the star dressing room and all that stuff that had been there for decades. But I never got there that Liza wasn't always there. And she would be on that stage just pacing, singing, warming up, with, scarves around her neck and holding a hot tea and stuff, just kind of drinking in this incredible space. And I didn't know her to do that in any other space. So I think she just adored her time there for the obvious reasons and, because of her family connections to the theater. But also it's one of the most incredible theaters any of us have ever walked in.
What did you discover when you were there? What did you find in those empty dressing rooms? And
I mean, I can't, it's not like there were John Bubbles programs.
oh God, I
laying
know.
around.
But like there are sometimes, like I know in the Winter Garden there are these hooks that hang out of the wall because that's where the horses were
Holy Toledo,
were tied
yes,
up,
of
and those
course.
are still there. And I know that like a lot of times under the desks, or they're not desks, they're dressing room tables.
Yeah.
People will write their names after they finish shows, and I would give anything to be able to just have the run of the place.
I mean, it had been so many things. It had, so many shows that have come through. I didn't see anything that really struck me as historic, but there was not a time that I opened that stage door that I didn't get chills. And just like, I can't believe I'm walking down these steps, these ridiculously steep steps from the stage door. You could die from steps like that. That everybody I've ever cared about has walked up my town. It's a thrilling feeling.
Were you ever aware of the ghost? Did you know there's a ghost to the Palace Theater?
We heard about that, but no, never
He
felt
was an
that.
acrobat. supposedly.
He was an acrobat? Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
Yeah, it's a
Did he die there?
It's a
Is
pretty
that-
gruesome story.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, like lots of ghost stories, there are various versions,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently they say he fell in the 1950s and that his ghost lets out blood-curdling screams when nobody's in the theater.
Lord.
But he did. It sounds to me from what I've read that like there actually is truth to the fact that he fell during a performance in 1935, but not that he died, but that
God.
he fell 18 feet.
Well,
I mean, there's an
wonder if-
actual date referenced, you know.
I wonder if he's sticking around for the renovation.
I wonder too. Yeah, I mean, if he's there when it's empty, now's his moment.
Scream out.
Yeah, geez. If a ghost screams in a Broadway theater when it's currently being lifted
Right.
1 inch a month, does anybody hear it? The sound.
I mean, there's somebody should be writing a book about the palace. I was talking to Max von Essen, who worked there in
An American in Paris.
In American in Paris, of course. And we feel like we should talk. I shouldn't even say this on the air because we'll probably never do it, but it's such a good idea. We want to talk to everybody that's alive that has ever worked at the palace.
Well,
And
Jen
that's
Tepper's
still-
doing it.
Oh.
You know, Jennifer Tepper has her books, The Untold Stories of
Yes.
Broadway, where she interviews everyone who's alive who's ever worked in every
doing the
Broadway
Palace?
theater. Well, I don't. She's on her 5th book, and her intention
Jen,
is
this
to
one's
do all
mine.
of them.
This one's mine. Max and I are going to do it. But there's still, the Midlers, the Minnellis, there's still a
You
lot
might
of
have access to
swell
more people than she does, although she's pretty well connected.
Well, I would love to read that book. I would love to read that book.
Well, we'll make
Just-
sure you're interviewed for it. I'll make a call to Jen this afternoon. Jim, we're into our last minute.
What?
Because we're live, we get cut off after 57 minutes
How
of talking.
dare you.
Well, you'll just have to come back for part 2.
Okay.
I want to make sure that everybody knows that they can follow you on social media at Jim Caruso 1 because you are
right.
the number one. You are the one, Jim
No, there was
Caruso.
another Jim Caruso.
God damn it. Jim Caruso 1 on Twitter and Instagram, online jim-caruso.com. And most importantly, go see Broadway at Birdland and check out all the incredible Monday night programming from Cast Party to Downstairs at the Birdland Theater, which was like your brainchild.
No. I mean, I was just...
You
I was-
oversaw the building of it.
That's not even true.
Okay, well, I'm going to...
But I book it. I'm one of the
But
bookers.
you book it.
And very happy to be.
I'm Laura Heywood. This has been Laura Heywood Interviews. Jim Caruso, you're a love. Thank you for being here.
This was a blast. Thank you.